This might sound a little dire, but there is a skill that every working woman must build for herself because actually society in how it is wired puts us at a disadvantage. It's not negotiation, it's not confidence, it's actually self advocacy. Women are much less likely to speak up for their own needs, to raise their voice in a meeting, or to make their work visible. And these are all skills or requirements to thrive in a corporate environment. So, in today's video, we're going to focus on how to be your own advocate. And I'm going to ask you to make 4 commitments to yourself. This is episode 3 of a 6-part mini series where I give you tips to accelerate your career. If you haven't watched episode 1 or 2 yet, click the links below. All right, so before we get into the actual commitments that I want you to make to yourself, I want to delve into why this is so important and in particular why it's so important for women. There are studies that actually show that women are much less likely to promote themselves, and there's one that I want to dig into in particular today. In 2019, there was a study released called The Gender Gap in Self-Promotion, and this was done by Harvard professors, so you know that it's actually a decent study. And not only was it done by Harvard professors, it also had a sample size of 14,000. So it's huge. It's huge as studies go. It had people within it were from the ages of 11 to 65, and it covered both males and females. And basically, what they did in this study, it was 2 parts. There was multi-parts, but there was 2 parts that I want to focus on. The first part of that was they asked participants to do a series of aptitude tests. And these are, your normal tests that you get people to do on things like logic and maths. Then what they did was they actually asked participants to rate how well they think they performed on those tests. And that's the part that was interesting. It wasn't necessarily their performance, it was their self-rating. And what they found was that women subjectively described their ability and performance to potential employers less favorably than equally performing men, i.e., on the aptitude test, the women and men might have performed the same, but those women were self-rating their performance lower. And this result was consistent across age groups. And what is actually really sad is that this trend starts as early as the 6th grade. So as early as women or girls are 11 or 12 years old, they're already less likely to rate themselves highly than their male counterparts. So what this means is that from a really young age, there are societal norms that are making us feel that we shouldn't speak up, feel that we shouldn't speak our truth, feel that we shouldn't raise visibility for ourselves. It's that whole thing of good girls are quiet, that those types of beliefs are instilled within us. And what that then means, that has implications on how we show up in later years of life. And some of the actual implications of things like that are within the corporate world. Women don't raise their visibility. Women don't promote their work. Women don't raise their voice in a meeting. And what we end up seeing are stats that are quite harrowing for us. For instance, we see a lower incidence of promotions. We see a gender pay gap. The latest data in Australia is still a 22% gap in gender pay. And we see less leaders that are female. So only 31% of executive leaders across the ASX 200 are females. And so we need to build this skill. We need to build this muscle of advocating for ourselves because it is from a very, very young age that we're already taught not to. Now, before we get into the 4 commitments that I'm going to ask you to make of yourself, if you're enjoying this content, if you're finding that it's helping you in your career, please like and subscribe. It really helps get this message out there. So, promise 1, commitment 1. I want you to promise to showcase your work. You have to build visibility of the work that you're doing. I hear this all the time, this kind of worry or this concern that sharing my work will sound braggy. Unfortunately, doing good work just isn't enough. You need to make sure it's seen, and visibility isn't vanity. I think there is this misconception that visibility is vanity. It's not. It's actually just simply how good work gets recognized. And if you don't build this skill of communicating your work, there is a cycle that happens. First, your work and your thinking become invisible. Then others start to fill the narrative. If you're not showing your work, if you're not showing your thinking, others will start to make assumptions about what you're doing or about who is doing the work. Then when you get to performance reviews, they can become vague and frustrating because you're not receiving the feedback that you feel that you deserve, and you're having conversations about things that you feel aren't actually accurate. You then start to work harder for the same recognition that others are receiving because you're not making your work visible. So you feel like you have to do more and more and more. Eventually that leads to burnout, but also what it does is it reinforces the systemic inequality. Those who are making their work visible, those who are speaking for themselves, which are more likely to be male, and that is a generalization, but based on research, they are more likely to be male. They're the ones who become more recognized. And you start to reinforce this cycle where women feel like they shouldn't advocate for themselves, women feel like they should stay behind the scenes. And that just becomes your reality. So, I have some basic examples on how to do this. And yes, they take courage, but just think of this as a muscle that you need to start using and you need to start growing. So, some simple examples. In your team meetings, share a concise but impactful update on what you've been working on. And when I say impactful, don't talk about all the meetings that you've been going to or all the workshops that you've been attending and making people think that you're really, really busy. Be really clear on the impact that you've had, on the outputs that you have. Focus on impact, not on effort. You could send an email wrap up on a Friday. So send a short email to your boss highlighting the 3 things you've completed and the 3 priorities for next week. This simple act, not only does it give visibility for your work, but it helps your boss know where things are at, and it actually reduces their stress. After big projects, send an email to relevant stakeholders with results and learnings. Make it short, sharp, easy to read, and meaningful. Just send a quick update, send it to the key people who are on the project and CC their leaders just to give an update and make sure that that work is actually tied to your name. And another example of how to do this, if you have an all hands or if you have a team meeting or a department-wide presentation or department-wide meeting, volunteer to present something that you led. As long as it's something that is impactful, that is interesting to other people, more than likely the person who is running that agenda is going to be thankful that you've raised your hand to present something so that they can fill that agenda. All right, promise number 2. I promise to share my development goals. Now, the thing with this though is you need to have a development plan. And if that is something that you want some support on, and if that's something that you'd like a template on, then please comment below. But with development, no one can support your growth unless they know what you want. And don't make people guess. Don't make your manager guess. Don't make your leader guess. What is it that you want to do? Where is it that you want to grow to? But there is a trick on how to do this. And the problem is that too many make the mistake of simply highlighting they want a new role to their manager and then just expecting things to happen. And they do it when timing might not be quite right, or they do it when they might not be nailing their role. There is a right way to go about this, and I'll take you through it. And the reason that I am worthy of listening to this kind of stuff is that I have done this loads. I have moved cross-functionally in my career quite a bit. I have shifted and I have been really, really successful in that career path. So very, very quick background on me. I started off in market research and I did various roles in market research agencies. Then I moved over to Sportsbet and I joined the research team. And after about a year in that, I had recognized that I really wanted to understand how the business ran commercially. So I moved into a commercial senior manager role. I was fortunate enough to then be put into the head of that team about 6 months later and look after quite a significant budget while I was in that commercial role. Then I moved into more of a product role. It wasn't sitting in the product team, but it was working really closely with data technology and data science to build out a capability. So it was more of a product role and more of a long-term strategic role. So I had a cross-functional move here and a cross-functional move here. And then recently I have moved to Ireland and I have taken on a director role in the UK and Ireland branch of that company. And now looking back on that and looking back on how I manage those cross-functional moves, I know that I have very helpful and impactful advice if you want to develop your career by growing into different areas of a business. So firstly, you must be nailing your job. It's the number one thing. Don't go to your manager and say, hey, I want to move into team XYZ, or my development plan is ABC. You have to have a good foundation first. And so you have to be nailing your job. So know what the expectations are and deliver on them. Be reliable, deliver consistently, and be someone that others trust. Once you build that opportunity for yourself, it is much easier for others to support your development. Then step 2, be really clear on where you'd like to explore and why. Make sure that you are articulating that to your leader and don't let them guess for you. You need to make it easy for those looking to support you. So here are some example scripts that you could use. I'd like to move into product because I'm looking for a role more closely linked to the customer, Or I'd like to move into a commercial role as I want to be close to business performance and build understanding of how a business makes money. Giving them not just the area of the business, but the rationale, that is going to be more helpful for them, because what they can then do is identify like, oh, hang on a second, if you want to be close to the customer, yes, product is a great way to do that, but you also might want to do XYZ. And they may be able to actually expand where you think that your development opportunities might be. All right. And then step 3, you need to also just like show your long-term commitment. Like, this isn't about people doing favors for you. This isn't about people going, oh yeah, okay, cool. You want to move over here? No worries. Like, we'll get you sorted. You have to show your long-term commitment to a business. And you do that by saying and believing things like this. I love being in this team and I learn so much from you, but I want to keep building my future here, and a cross-functional move feels like the next step. Like, make sure that you're showing that gratitude and appreciation, and also letting them know that you're in the business for the long term, but doing a cross-functional move is likely the thing that's going to keep you there. Framing matters, so make sure that you show growth and loyalty. Promise number 3. I want you to promise to speak up in meetings. And this might feel scary, but this is just another muscle that you need to keep building. It is something that as you practice it, it will get easier over time. So here are some thoughts, inner thoughts, beliefs, and just quotes that I have had from different people that I've mentored over time. I'm the only woman in the room, so I feel like my opinion doesn't belong. I'll wait until I've thought this through properly. I don't want to sound stupid. I won't ask the question because it might seem like I'm not getting it. These are all inner monologues that people have had that have held them back from raising their voice in a meeting and from building that profile. And as I said, thinking about like speaking up in meetings, think of it as a muscle that you need to train, much like when you go to the gym. Every time you train it, it becomes stronger and easier to use. And you just have to practice it. And every time you do a rep, it will get easier over time. A note, a word of caution, or just a perspective. Speaking up in meetings, it's not the only way to contribute. However, it is the main way in which teams currently collaborate in business. So training this muscle is really important. I just don't want you to think that you have to speak in every meeting. You don't. And I know that for introverts out there, it is harder. But the reality of how businesses operate today, it is a muscle that you need to train. And so my ask is that you just commit to yourself, that you practice. Okay. And now some helpful reframes to enable you to practice this muscle. So moving from this, I'm the only woman in the room, so I feel like my opinion doesn't belong. Like I have been there. I have been the only woman on a leadership team of 9. I have been the only woman in a room of 25. It is part and parcel of the job. But what I found is that actually my point of difference is actually my superpower. And so the reframe that I have created for myself and that I have encouraged other women, particularly within my industry, to do is to think in this way instead. Because I'm the only woman in this room, my opinion is even more valuable. Being different is actually my superpower. You don't need to look like everyone else to belong, and actually looking like everyone else is not a good thing. Like, we need diversity, we need different thinking. So use your point of difference as your superpower. The next one, I'll wait until I've thought this through properly because I don't want to sound stupid. The reframe that I encourage is my answer doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be useful. Like, no one's answer is perfect. No one's answer is like properly thought through, but having one is so much more valuable than not. And then the last one, I won't ask questions because it might seem like I'm not getting it. Reframe that to clarifying questions are useful for everyone in the room. It's highly likely I'm not the only one thinking it, and it actually gives feedback to the presenter on what they're assuming. I always encourage people to ask questions. It doesn't show that you're not getting it. It actually just signals to the room that perhaps like there is clarification required here. And you know what? When you ask a question, it breaks things up for the presenter and they'll probably thank you for it. So just remember that actually like speaking up in sessions is helpful for the person running it. Like, make it about them. Don't make it about you. You're supporting them by contributing, and there's actually nothing worse than asking a question to a room and receiving a blank response. So be the person who responds, be the person who helps out the person who's running the meeting. They will thank you for it. Now, I have some very quick tips if you're still not feeling ready after some of these reframes. So if you are finding that you're still like holding yourself back, or you're just like, you don't have the confidence to raise your voice, try these things instead. First, you could offer to run the team meeting. You could just reach out to your manager, reach out to whoever normally runs it and be like, hey, like I'll run the meeting today. That forces you to actually speak up in the meeting because you're the one running it. So you will naturally have a voice. And in doing so, you may then build the confidence to raise an opinion later on. Another is prepare a question or contribution in advance. Reach out to the person running the session and ask them, hey, is there a document I can read beforehand? I'd like to prepare a few questions, or I'd like to prepare some thoughts. They will, again, thank you for it because you'll actually show engagement in whatever that they're leading. And the last one, go first. If this sounds so simple, but not like, there will be team meetings where there might be things like shout outs, or there might be things like, anyone have any ideas on what we can do? Like you might have been primed to bring ideas to the table. So everyone knows like to bring a question or bring an idea. Just say it first, because sometimes the longer you sit there in silence, the more you'll start to talk yourself out of raising an opinion. All right. And number 4, the final commitment. I would like you to promise to have the pay conversation. This one is a hard one, and this one really saddens me. Like, a lot of women do just hold themselves back from having a pay conversation. And it's because they have these internal beliefs that actually just like stops them from having the conversation and raising it for themselves. So many have these views that asking for money is greedy and therefore I shouldn't do it. They also think that, like, surely they'll just look after me without me asking. Like, surely that person will look after me. Surely that leader will look after me. Like, I don't have to ask. And they kind of like shy away from it. Or they'll say to themselves, like, I'm likely on what I deserve anyway. And they let these beliefs stop them from taking action and basically protect them from what they believe to be a potentially scary conversation. But the unfortunate reality in life is you don't always just get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And again, like, we really need to build this skill, build this muscle, and just make it a rule to yourself that you will ask the question. And I encourage anyone that I work with to create this rule for themselves that anytime my responsibilities increase, I will open a conversation about a review of my pay. And I've been very, very careful and choiceful about the words that are in that sentence. This is about opening up a conversation, and it's about reviewing my pay. It's not about pushing for a pay rise. It's just saying, hey, my responsibilities have changed. I just want to make sure that my pay reflects them. So, some more reframes for you. These are to shift some of those limiting beliefs that are potentially holding you back from having this kind of conversation. But I want you to think in this way. Asking for a pay review is simply asking for your pay to fairly reflect your responsibilities. It's nothing to do with your worth. Also, asking for a pay review doesn't make you greedy. It makes you someone who has integrity and self-respect. Another one, non-greedy, charitable people ask for pay reviews all the time. Asking for a pay review doesn't make you greedy. Like, I can assure you of that. And talking about money is not taboo. Money is actually a resource we all need to live. Like, it is just simply a resource we all need to live. So talking about it is fine. Not talking about it actually shows it disrespect. It's a resource we all need. You have permission to talk about it. And actually, like, the largest return on investment statement that you could say is, I'd really love to see what you can do. And I have encouraged multiple people to say this when they are in pay negotiations, when they're starting a new role. And I recently mentored someone who received a 5K pay increase just by saying that one statement, just by asking the question and saying, hey, I'd really love to see what you can do. So why not? It could be the highest return on investment. Like, it takes 5 minutes. And if you get 5K for 5 minutes, that is huge. Now, in order to have this pay conversation and make sure that you're feeling confident when you are doing it, I have a few tips. So first, do your research and figure out what feels comfortable for you. What is your range? And when I say do your research, like, have a look online, have a look at what other similar roles are being offered, just so you know what is a range that I would be comfortable at. Then I have a script that you can use which takes out personal investment and takes out emotional, and it just makes it an open conversation. With an increase in my responsibilities, I would appreciate if we also reviewed my compensation package to ensure it fairly reflects the value that I am adding to this business. It's as simple as that. Or if you are offered a role and you want to, and the package isn't quite what you're expecting, you can try this. I'm really excited to work at your company. To ensure the value of what I bring and the role is recognized, I'd like to discuss if there is any room on the salary. Like, open up in that way. You're not making it personal. You're not being demanding. You are being open. You are showing up with integrity, and you are being someone who they will respect. Now, a tip, as I said, make sure that you're not being demanding or stoic, and actually you want to approach it in a way that shows that you're flexible and open. All you're doing is opening up the conversation and seeing what they can do. And step 3, if you're asked, give a number. So you can use this script. My expectations are actually a little closer to X. If you also think that that's reasonable, it would be great to see if we can close the gap on that. Can you see how the language that we're using, it's open, it's flexible. All you're doing is asking for a conversation about it. And look, if it doesn't go your way, that's okay. At least you've asked the question. All right, so that's it for today. Those are the 4 commitments that I would love for you to make to yourself. And each of those 4 commitments, if you act on them, you will become a much bigger advocate for yourself. If you found this video helpful, please follow me on LinkedIn, because I do post daily tips on there to help grow your career. Or better yet, if you would like to work with me further, make sure that you have a look at my program Sage, which is a career accelerator for women. You can DM me to find out more about it. And stay tuned for next week's video, where I'm going to help you learn how to manage your stakeholders.